The South Wayne Coach Conversation brought to you by Fidelity Bank and Trust in Ossian and Calmar, Dave's Collision Shop in Ossian, and Becker Hardware in Ossian. We're with head wrestling coach Jacob Elsbernd. And Coach, last Friday night, you wrestled at the Upper Iowa Conference Tournament in Elkader. You ended up with a second place finish at that meet behind MFL Marmac. In your mind, how'd the evening go?
I thought it went pretty well. I mean, we like to consider ourselves in the hunt every year, and that's usually before the season starts. It's kind of like, I think, we're up there with MFL and North Fayette Valley, and then you kind of see how the year falls as far as injuries, where kids are at weight-wise, and a lot of things play into that. And I'd say, looking at the score, if you had told me beforehand that we'd have been leading the tournament, part way through, going to the last round, and then, being within 15, I would have said that's probably about right where we need to be. And thinking back to different matches, there weren't that many that I thought that we won that we shouldn't have, and I don't really think there's that many that we lost that we should have won. I mean, you're in some of these matches, and you're going to win some, and you're going to lose some of them, but overall, I was very, very pleased with our kids' effort, and once again, having 14 kids competing, it means a heck of a lot in these tournaments. You need a kid at every weight.
And when you look at the fact that you mentioned you were leading heading into the final round, but MFL Marmac took the position and ultimately won the title, it wasn't a case of you guys not doing what you should. It was more of a case of the Bulldogs going out and earning that title rather than you giving it to them. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, we had 7 in the finals and finished with 3 champions. And if you look at the kids who lost, I mean, they were probably considered underdogs in those, it's not like someone got upset, like, going in, it's like, okay, this kid's probably the favorite, over our kid. But yeah, having 7 finalists and then a bunch of our kids getting third. MFL really did the same thing. They put a bunch in the finals. They won one more finals match than we did. And then they had a bunch of kids on the backside, and they were getting some pins too. We were getting some pins earlier in the day. They were getting pins later in the day, and those bonus points, do help out as well.
You found out on Wednesday night after practice that the meet was going to get moved from Saturday to Friday night. How were you able to adjust to that, getting ready on Thursday and everything like that? Or was it just another case in a year of 2020, 2021, just kind of rolling with the punches and being willing to adapt and adjust when necessary?
Yeah, it was Wednesday afternoon that we first kind of heard word that they're even thinking about Friday night, and we kind of got the ball rolling and wanted to really know by then so we could talk to our team, because all of a sudden now you're going into Wednesday's practice telling them, hey, tomorrow's our last prep practice for the week, giving them information about when the bus takes off, getting their parents the information they need. So it was a little crazy, but in the end, this time of year, you just kind of make the quick change and you adapt practice, and maybe you talk about your pre-meet stuff a little bit earlier, and then going into Friday, I think the majority of coaches, I would assume, that I talked to, were all pretty positive about how Friday night's tournament went, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see that in the future. I definitely think that's an option that the Upper Iowa Conference might do in the future.
How was it like having the last Saturday off in January? That had to be a little bit weird of a feeling, I'd imagine.
It was it was definitely weird. Up until last year, we had 2 tournaments back-to-back weekends in January canceled for weather. So we had a little taste of it last year, but it's a weird feeling, not waking up on a Saturday morning in the winter and going to a gym. But it was good. I think our kids and our families, they probably needed that. I mean, it's an okay thing. I mean, if you're thinking about how it's always been, yeah, it's weird. But there's things that families can do with their kids, you know, on a Saturday. And we know now that we have 3 Saturdays in a row that we need to be back at it, and that's not going to change. So slipping a Saturday in there to have off, you know, I don't think is the worst idea in the world.
You head to a sectional this week with a lot of teams that you're unfamiliar with, at least this year's edition of their prospective wrestling teams, as comparing to seeing a lot of familiar opponents like you have at sectionals in years past. Does that change your approach to Saturday at all, or is it just a case of we know what to do and let's go out and do it?
Yeah, so we got to duel Central Springs, and then we saw them at a tournament the first week of the season. So we've seen Central Springs a time or two, dueled St. Ansgar, and then obviously we've seen Wrightsville in a duel, and then the conference tournament. But we have not seen Lake Mills, we have not seen Northwood Kensett, and Mason City Newman. So yeah, typically our sectionals, you know, as long as I can remember, we've had, you know, head to head, or at least somebody on our team has wrestled that kid. Maybe they move weights, but yeah, there's a little bit unknown. We've obviously done a little bit of scouting and kind of seen, you know, where we think our kids fall in the brackets. Dug up some stuff for kids that we haven't seen. That's kind of a unique thing this year. We'll see how it goes in the future, but you talk about all these meets being on the internet, YouTube channels and broadcasted. We were able to pull up some film on some kids that on a typical year, we wouldn't have got to see that. So, you know, there's kids that we've watched several matches of that, you know, that's kind of a new thing, and it's kind of cool. I mean, it was nice to be able to dig that up. So as far as preparing for them, yeah, I mean, we don't really worry about too much about what other kids are doing, you know, more or less, you know, figure out our, you know, last couple of weeks, we really looked at some problem areas that we have as a team. And so a lot of focus has been put on those problem areas and those situational type positions that we need to get better on. And, you know, I think that'll help. You know, every team has kind of some little, you know, little things that they do. You know, maybe one team has a bunch of leggers. Maybe our team's kind of known for having some kids that go out and throw a little bit, or just ride a certain way with you know, tight waist in the bar, whatever it is. So you kind of pick up on those just over the years, you know, wrestling these programs and knowing who their coaching staff is and what they traditionally like to do. So you do think a little bit about that, but.
And what's it going to take to have as successful of a day as you can Saturday out at Lake Mills, and hopefully get an opportunity to wrestle on Tuesday night?
Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty deep, you know, brackets on Saturday, and then there's some that, you know, aren't as deep, and we just need, you know, if our kids can all wrestle to their seed, I think it'll be a pretty good day for us. You know, maybe a couple kids can wrestle over their seed, I guess, but you know, we feel good. We feel there's a chance, you know, there might be 8 kids that we can get through, but then again, you know, there might be as few as, you know, 2, 3. It's an interesting sectional. Like I said, there's some good kids. You know, Lake Mills is full of a full lineup of good kids, and everybody else kind of got some pieces in there. So it'll be interesting. You know, hopefully we can put our best showing, you know, out there, and then yeah, we'll be waiting to kind of see what happens with regional duels. You know, maybe where we get put there. And next week will be busy week again, getting ready for that, and districts.
All right, Coach, here's to having a great day Saturday out at Lake Mills, hopefully getting an opportunity to wrestle Tuesday night and keep as many Warriors wrestling as possible come next week. We wish you best of luck.
Hey, thanks, Darren. We appreciate it.
That's Southwind coach Jacob Elsbernd in our Southwind coach conversation, brought to you by Fidelity Bank and Trust in Ossian and Calmar, Dave's Collision Shop in Ossian, and Becker Hardware in Ossian.